Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin. Great to have your company on the show. Our studio guests tonight, three of them all ready to get into the meat and bones of the stories today. Alan Rough, Hugh McDonald of the Daily Mail and Simon Donnelly. So, lots to talk about from the news emerging today. Yeah, quite a bit to get our teeth into. Let's start with Craig Levein. Looks as if it could be 2 months, Ruffy. Just a heart scare has emerged as the problem with Craig. Austin McPhee will take charge of the match against St Mirren at the weekend. And by that time, I think, there's a suggestion that Hearts could have as many as 4 players in.
Yeah, well, obviously he's done his work before, obviously, this horrible incident happened. But it just shows you the stress. We talk about the stress with players on the park. It just shows you that managers must be going through the same thing, and it depends on how you deal with it. Unfortunately for Craig, it's affected his health. So, I think they'll have to deal with it, because I just remember something happened about a year or so along the same lines. So maybe it's just a stress-related incident. But certainly they are going to bring in, because he's not well, particularly well, they're not going to stop him bringing players in.
Yeah, the one thing about it is he seems to be one of those managers at the moment. It's 24/7. Hearts is his main focus. If he's not at the main game, he's at youth games, he's watching reserve games.
Well, he's doing 2 jobs. I mean, how do you know that? Because they don't have a director of football anymore. He was a director of football. They had a manager, they had a series of coaches. Now they don't have a director of football. So who's doing that role? Craig Levein. Yeah, he's the guy who's going to be bringing them in, dealing with contracts, etc. And he's obviously, although he's got very good coaches, John Daly and Austin McPhee, he's obviously still out on the training ground. The amount of work they must have been doing in recruitment was huge, because they've just changed the whole club round. So it's been a really hectic summer for him, and it's got off to, in every other way, apart from this awful episode for him, it's got off to the best of starts.
Yeah, well, you can't take your eye off the ball. I mean, some people might be arguing over Celtic and Rangers, but I've been waxing lyrical about them since I watched them in pre-season as well. I mentioned that you could have 4 players in, Osman So, they reckon, Vanacek, if they can get the pre-contract accelerated rather than him coming in January. Then you've got Dimitri Mitchell, who could be back on the loan from Manchester United, and of course, Craig has already said they need a centre-half because of the injury to Berra.
Yeah, it's a fantastic start for Hearts. 3 wins out of 3, and you look at the top of the table and the 5 teams there. I think this season it could be tight. Moving forward, I think they can all beat each other. A fantastic performance against Celtic at Tynecastle. They deserved that win. But the most important thing is his health, obviously, with this heart scare this morning. Hopefully he comes through and gets back in the dugout quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we'll monitor that and bring you news, but everybody on the programme wishing him a speedy recovery. Now, switching to another man with a lot of stress on his mind. It's a topic that I think all 3 of us are going to get our teeth into, especially you, Ruffy, because the honour of playing for your country 53 times at World Cups, and of course the great thing about having Simon on is Simon's been to a World Cup as well, Ruffy. Very rarely do we get a situation where you don't have somebody who's sampled going to a World Cup. But over and above that, we're now in a situation where Alex McLeish has just fired the first salvo. You can't pick the games. You could risk your international careers. He's talking, of course, about Robert Snodgrass and James McArthur, who clearly don't want to be selected for the next 2 games.
Yeah, we saw hints of it in the last maybe 10 years when players have been looking at club. A lot of them decide what they're going to do through injury. I think Scott Brown's a perfect example, getting on in his career, identifying he was picking up injuries and didn't want to play that many games, But before that, we've had players pulling out as well. But these 2 seem different. They're still playing away, playing at the top of their level, but don't want to be considered. And that's why I think Alex came out with this sort of a attitude that if anybody else is thinking about doing this, you better think second before I pick you again.
Yeah. Hugh, I hate to say it, but money is the root of all evil here. We're in a situation where it's no longer about the pride for your country. There are a lot, not everyone, but there are a lot of footballers who are so wealthy they don't need international football. They'll decide when they play.
Yeah, I think it even goes even beyond money as well, because there was an awful lot of wealthy players, as you know, in the 80s, Peter, you know, in relative terms, who would pick and choose games as well. I mean, that was always the accusation against Alan Hansen, for example. It's always thought that why Fergie didn't take him to the World Cup was that, you know, he picked and chose when he wanted to come. Always with an injury, of course.
Yeah.
And then there was a great anecdotal stuff about what they called Anglos in those days, that managers would say to them, by the way, you've got an injury this week, phone up Scotland. And all players have injuries.
I wouldn't narrow that down to
No,
Anglos.
no,
Hugh. There,
but
there are a number of players I could rhyme off who all come up with that stroke.
Yeah, there's a great stat. I think one of the really interesting things going forward is that before the World Cup in particular, I thought international football was done. I really did. I thought television wasn't that interested in it, the fans weren't that interested in it, and the players weren't interested in it. I think the World Cup's given it a wee lift because it was a good World Cup.
Yeah.
It really was a good World Cup. But if you're looking at it going forward, international football, I think, is really under threat because players now are looking at themselves saying, I want to stay in this game for as long as I can. I want to have a long career, and they're doing stuff for that. International football impinges on it. The clubs don't want their players to go away to whatever. Imagine Manchester City on an international weekend, empty.
I think a number of clubs who are in the Premier League have changed the balance of it, though, because quite simply, you know, Celtic got a substantial amount of money from international players who were playing at the World Cup for every game they played in. There was obviously this insurance policy, you know, guarding against them getting injured, and of course the fact that they're away from their club to play for their country. But that's like a drop in the ocean to the Premier League clubs now. That just doesn't matter.
No, and I think the defence of these two guys, I think MacArthur, I read, is nursing himself through games with a back problem. And if it's extra time to recover, I can probably see his argument. But the other side of that coin is you've got a youthful Scotland squad there, and as Alec McLeish says, if these guys come in and perform, they take the jersey. So these guys might find they're on the outside looking in and regret their decision.
Yeah, you know, when you look at it and you look at this squad, are we missing their experience in this, Hugh?
Well, I mean, I always think I like James because I think he gives you a steadiness. I think he's one of these players that's underrated because MacArthur, because he goes underneath the radar a bit. And I think Snodgrass offers something that, you know, we've not got a lot, and that's kind of flair in the final third. He can get the ball out his feet and do that kind of looping ball with his left foot. But having said that, they're not like Dalglish and Hansen pulling out in 86. You know what I mean? It's the players who, if there had been no press announcement about them not being in the squad, you know, there wouldn't be any outcry about it.
There's other ones there. There's young ones coming through. You've got McGregor, McGinn, Armstrong's just moved to Southampton. McTominay. If these guys take the positions, these guys might find it hard to get.
I agree with you.
I mean, McGinn's went down to Villa. Every time I've seen him play, the first 3 or 4 games he's been outstanding. So I firmly expect him to kind of stake a claim for the middle of the park for Scotland.
I think you're right, and I think it's going to be key. I think McLeish will have to put down markers of who he really wants in his team very early, and building a team, you know, a Scotland team around young players like McGinn is not a bad way to go. That's the way I would go.
Yeah, I get a feeling now that, you know, Alec, I always think you're better being a lucky manager at times than a good manager, Ruffy. And I think Alec is a good manager. He can get them well organised. The evidence is there from his previous tenure as Scotland manager. But if you're lucky enough to have a team which is built on energy, the same qualities that McGinn has, and you can get younger people with a little sprinkling of experience, who knows?
Yeah, well, I think it's ideal, this Nations Cup that's coming up. I mean, they're not two big, massive nations that we've got to overcome. You would like to think that the young guys going in there will use it as a learning curve, and the players that we've mentioned we'll get a wee bit of confidence out of these games we're playing, and hopefully we can qualify to the next phase of that. But certainly it's great seeing these young boys in, but do they step up to the plate? And that's why, you know, we're all a wee bit anxious or a wee bit, you know, not going over the top, because we know what McGinn can do. McTominay's not in the Man United team now, but McGregor's there, Armstrong's there, so it's a full team of youth. There's not a great abundance of caps, you know, in this squad now.
I like Fraser as well, by the way, Peter.
Yeah,
I think he could be really something because Simon will know this. See, any level at all, if you've got pace,
Yeah.
and he's got extraordinary pace.
He's playing on a regular
And
basis at Bournemouth as well, so it always helps.
Fingers crossed. OK, from international football back to European football with the domestic games at the weekend in mind. Willie Collum, first of all, is...
Domestic games at the weekend?
There are indeed. There's just a few that might actually catch your attention, Hugh. Willie Collum's the Old Firm referee. Is that a safe pair of hands for this first of 4 or possibly more, Hugh?
For me, oh, they just pulled the pin out and rolled it to me. To me, no. There's be two kind of levels of views on Willie Collum. You know, people look at him in UEFA for a long time, looked at him, you know, as getting games at a good level there. I just think at times he's kind of temperamentally unsuited to Rangers Celtic games.
Are you on the page that sometimes you never know whether he's going to be card happy or suddenly he's been told to calm it down?
I don't think he's got that. It's a criticism that's quite levelled at him quite a lot, that he knows how to referee, but he doesn't know how football is played. And to give you a couple of examples, I think he's very. People call him really card happy, and yes, he can be like that. But at times, he makes decisions where you go... I always remember the David Healy one. I don't know if you remember David Healy, James Forrest, a Celtic Rangers match. Willie Collum had refereed the game perfectly. And David Healy just lost it with James Forrest from about 30 yards. And everyone in the press box saw Healy running over to James Forrest and going, this is a sending off. Of course, up and down, everybody looked at each other. And he gave him a booking, you know, and you go, well... No, that was... If you know about football, you know what was going on in David Healy's mind, you know what the tackle was all about. That kind of thing. It seems a small wee point. He's done other things. I'm not making a pro-Celtic point.
You better balance it up or you get to the witness protection scheme by about half 9 tonight.
It's just that kind of thing where I think there's referees... No referee is perfect because it's a very difficult job. But I think, and this will cause explosions, I think Bobby Madden had a good game the other week there.
Who's the best referee in Scotland?
I would all of us at one time, I'd said Craig Thompson, but he's getting on it. He's off the UEFA list. I think he's going out. But I think he's probably, if you were talking about back to safest pair of hands, it would be Craig Thompson for me. I don't know, what about you?
I think they all make mistakes. It's a difficult job. I seen a clip on Twitter during the week, one of the English ones, for all the stuff that's going on in his ear with the VAR. I know we're not going down that route just now, but I just hope we're talking about the football rather than, you know, I'd like the referee not to be the main guy on the stage on Sunday. I think it's going to be a terrific game.
It's sometimes used as an excuse for a defeat as well. I mean, let's not rule that out. But let me talk to you about the implications of Thursday night with regards to the weekend, because the two clubs are involved in European football. Rangers could have another signing in Eros Greta. They could have Joe Worrell in as well, on loan from Nottingham Forest. So suddenly you're in a situation where they've really bolstered. But I think Thursday is the big hurdle to get over. It's a slender lead. Yep. Suddenly if they get over that, Simon, confidence.
Yeah, and I think both teams, I mean, Celtic are really looking for some confidence just now. They started the first leg really well with the goal in the first couple of minutes, and then just kind of petered away. The surface, I know, wasn't perfect, and I won each. Normally, under normal circumstances, you'd be happy with that, but I think the performance, Celtic were looking for a wee bit more. Yeah. I was at the game at the weekend, and again, they struggled. Hamilton came and set their stall out, and defensive unit, hard to break down. So it's a big one for Celtic, but likewise, if both teams go into the game on Sunday on the back of getting into the Europa League, the confidence is up and it sets it up nicely for Sunday. Yeah,
Ruffy, Ufa offered very little as far as a couple of chances, which again Alan McGregor just seems to always pop up with big saves, but they're going to provide a different test at home. This is a real test of Rangers as they keep getting better opposition. Motherwell was a different style that they had to try and adapt to, ended up with a draw. This one, before the real barometer, I think everybody's dying to gauge Rangers against Celtic.
Well, I think the first thing that Rangers will be worrying, are this team any different, you know, at home from away? Because sometimes you got all these European sides who come away from home and then they go back to their own bit and they're just the same. They don't change their style of play. That's the way they play. So if you think the Rangers are going to be under the cosh, obviously Alan McGregor has come up with the goods, but it's another small test for Rangers to get by this one. You wouldn't want to be getting into the Celtic game being knocked out of the Europa Cup. You know, that's something you wouldn't want to go into. So, but I think both of them will go through. So I think we're up for a good game.
You think they'll both go through, Hugh?
Yeah, but just, and I think Celtic, Celtic, I agree with Simon, 1 each is usually a great result, but I mean, that team should have been beaten 5 or 6 or 7. So and I think it's going to be tough for Rangers, but if Rangers revert to type, that is the way they were before Motherwell and Sunday, yeah, they're going to be a difficult team to score 2 goals against, and that's what Ufa might take. I think the interesting thing, if you're looking forward to it, and just this as an observation, is that you might look back in the season and say the biggest result that Celtic had in the season was beating Hamilton 1-0 at Celtic Park. They might actually look back and say, you know, how important that was. Because if you'd imagine Celtic drawing on Sunday, on the back of all that's going on at the club, they would have been rolling towards Sudova, you know, under real pressure.
Well, listen, they have to win at home, but I wonder what the effect is now. Celtic fans are going in to watch Celtic against Sudova at home. The Boyata thing, I don't think it's changed the majority of Celtic fans on his future. Mark Wilson, the former Celtic player, called him a joke. Thought that was maybe a wee bit too strong and unfair on Dedrick Boyata. But suddenly, whereas Rangers are getting these signings done, Brendan Rodgers looking for what, 3, 4 players according to reports last week, still none. The odd carrot of their potential looking at this guy from Man City. They're sounding as if they're turning into a feeder club for Man City at the moment, but nothing's happening.
No, and I think just to give everything a lift, it'd be nice to see a couple of fresh faces coming in. I think always at the start of seasons, when I was at Celtic, you know, you'd 1 or 2 would come in, it would give you a lift because you wouldn't want to lose your place in the team, but also if they were in the team and it was of a good quality, they would lift you as well. And I think Celtic are in bad need of that just now, whether it's a result, whether it's a European result or the game against Rangers at the weekend, or a couple of new faces, or both. I think we just need a wee lift at Celtic. I think that the whole thing was quite quiet at the weekend, and they get the goal and it's an important 3 points. But I think they need a couple of fresh faces. Yeah,
if they don't get a couple of fresh faces, I don't know how they spin this, Hugh. They've spun it so many times before.
But the whole thing is perspective. The whole thing is perspective. You're right, how they spin it, because if you look at a game last night, for example, Tottenham Hotspur v Man United, and the perspective on that game now, because of the result, is a manager who buys nothing during the window is very happy and talking, and the whole club's happy. And you hear Kane saying, "We're glad we didn't buy anybody because we think we're the greatest team." Now, a manager who spent hundreds of millions to him, people forget everybody thinks, "Oh, Mourinho spent nothing in the window." Yeah, he did. He spent an awful lot of money in the window. He didn't get what he wanted. He spent, is now painted. And you're right about perspective. Football is a really, it's an unfathomable business at times, you know. And if anybody said at the beginning of the season, do Celtic need more players to win the SPFL? You looked at the squad and said, of course they don't. But you're right, that whole culture and staleness maybe coming in, and I agree with Simon. I think they need both. I think they need signings before Friday, and I think they need a couple of good results.
Yeah,
but it's amazing they've waited this long. You know, Brendan Rodgers came out on numerous occasions saying, "You don't realise how difficult it is to sign a top-class player."
Ruffy? How is it amazing? I've been with you 6 years, and I could go back to every transfer window and show you the same conversation. Amazing.
I know. The amazing point for me is that Brendan Rodgers is telling everybody how difficult it is to bring a top-class player in, and now he's going to try and sign 4 in 3 days. It's just not logical.
Well, and I also think, here's another point, I think the logic of it is very, very strange, because one area of the team I would say needs no touching at all is midfield.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, we're getting Luis from, all the Celtics, we'll get this Luis
Benkovic is defender, It's,
You see, what you need at Celtic Park is another defender.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. You need a centre back like now. So that's where all my resources would be going.
Just on the point before I get the discussion over the best European goal of last season, you touched on Mourinho there. Might as well get it. It was an extraordinary press conference last night. I think everybody right across the United Kingdom and Europe and possibly the world were looking at it and thinking, he was demanding respect. It's a shadow of the side that Fergie had. There's no wing play. There's no attacking men. There's a guy in the middle of the park who is a disgrace for an £89 million player. He's got no discipline whatsoever. I look at that side and I think to myself, that is a shadow of what Man United used to be about.
Well, see, the thing about it is, I think I think Mourinho's a great manager, right? And I think he's now. People are saying, "Oh, he's this and that." Mourinho won the Champions League with Porto, right? End of story. That's it. He's a great manager. But what happens is sometimes you're the wrong manager at the wrong club. Two things with Mourinho. Mourinho's not adapted with modern football. He loses the dressing room. You can't do that now. Old days, you could say to players, well, you're not playing for me. You'll sit there for 2 years on that contract. Now, clubs will say, do we keep Mourinho or do we keep Courtois or Hazard or whoever else is falling out? They'll go, well, we want to keep Courtois, Hazard, Churio, Jose.
Yeah.
The second thing is he was never a Manchester United manager because they're not Chelsea, they're not Inter Milan, they're not all about winning. You've got to win with style. That's what it's all about. And I think they just signed another Van Gaal, a guy who had a big ego, was going to come in and say, play it my way or don't play it at all.
Yeah.
And he's gone. We said the first programme of the season, we said, when we were talking about him in America, we said that's the best resignation speech I've ever heard.
Yeah. He's they've moved on from dull to duller. It's incredible. I never thought it was possible. Just before we go, overhead kick. Ronaldo voted the UEFA goal of the season. We've been arguing about it. There's the tweet from Ronaldo. Thanks to everyone who voted for me. We'll never forget that moment. I think Ronaldo's won me over. I just think he's. I'm in his camp now. I know he dives occasionally, all that, but I'm in his camp. It was a great goal. I think the great thing that Hugh and I mentioned earlier, is it better than Bale's?
For me, no. I think it's a fantastic goal, and he's a fantastic player. And I'm the same as you. I admire him, for everything he's did and achieved in the game. He's up there with the best. But the technical aspect of Bale's goal, I think the ball coming across, it was almost behind him. The fact that it was in the final, I would have went for Gareth Bale.
Gareth Bale for me, because goals have a narrative around them, and you've got to remember he was just on the park, the game was in the balance, and it was just brilliant. But it's a great pub argument because you're not going to storm the barricades over Ronaldo's, are you?
Listen, couldn't think of a better guy to have a pub argument with than Ruffy. Ruffy, you get the last word on this.
No, I would have to agree with the guys. You go to a European Cup final, you come on and you score a goal like that in the biggest club tournament. It's Bale.
You'd have held it, mind you.
Yeah.
Oh, over the bar at least.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the only saving grace on it, probably the committee we're looking at, is the Liverpool goalkeeper was Karius, and the goalkeeper for Juventus was Buffon. Hey, it's a great pub argument. Don't forget to subscribe to our PLZ Soccer YouTube channel. Thanks to Simon, to Hugh and Ruffy. Good night.